Hello and welcome to this India Today special coming to you from Kolkata. The battle for Bengal is being described as the fiercest election battle that we've seen in years. 4 rounds are done. Who's ahead? Who's trailing? We're joined by the key political strategist of Mamata Banerjee, Trinamool Congress leader, and we are joined by Prashant Kishore, the man who's organizing her campaign. Prashant, let's cut the chase and ask the simple question that people are asking. Has Prashant Kishore conceded defeat to the BJP in this election already after your chat room conversation was leaked?
Well, first of all, what was leaked? It was a chat room conversation which was out in the public domain. There's nothing which suggests that it was leaked. And what I said there was very clearly what I have been saying and stating in public domain. Let me give you a cricketing analogy because we all love cricket. We are a cricket-loving country. It's like on the eve of the match between, say, Australia and India, you talk to the Indian captain and see what is the prospect of you winning. The captain will say, oh yes, Australia is a formidable team, they have world-class players, and they are the team to beat, but we have our own plans. If we execute it well, we are going to win. And then you as a journalist take the second part off and play the first part and make this big proclamation that Indian captain has conceded defeat.
So you have not conceded defeat at all?
Absolutely not.
You still believe Trinamool Congress is winning
not,
this election?
There is nothing called still believe. I have always believed, and since December I have been on the public platform stating it repeatedly that Trinamool is winning and winning it big.
So you're still sticking to your stand that if the BJP crosses 100, you will give up political management?
See, first of all, I don't do political management, but yes,
Political strategy.
whatever I do, the way world have seen and understood, I cease to be that person if BJP is to cross 100 in Bengal.
Okay, let's come to the...
And please, on 2nd of May, hold me to this.
I will hold you. I'm recording this. I'm going to hold you. I will interview you again on the 2nd of May.
Yes.
But I just want to understand this. In that conversation,
yes,
you make the points that you believe Modi is a popular leader.
Yes.
You believe there is polarization of Hindu-Muslims on the ground.
Absolutely.
You believe there is anti-incumbency.
Yes.
And you believe the BJP is well organized on the ground.
Yes.
Right?
All 4 points I have answered in response to a question that how BJP is getting 40% vote. And I have explained that these are the 4-5 key factors because of which BJP is getting this 40-41% vote. And do the world knows, quote unquote, my conversation on a clubhouse to know Modi is popular? Everyone knows he is popular.
So you are trying to explain, in your view, why the BJP will get 40% of the vote, but still get less than 100 seats you're claiming.
Yes, what I have been explaining is that it's not that what BJP will get. What BJP has already got in Lok Sabha is close to 40% vote. I'm saying they are going to be getting anything between 35% to 41% vote. And the reason why they would get those votes are the things which I explained, that one of the reason is Modi is popular. And I don't need to, I'm surprised that BJP leaders, some of them are jumping up and down that I have called Modi as a very popular leader. Of course he's a popular leader. 200 million Indians have voted for him.
I'll come to those reasons in a moment because they're fascinating. But Amit Shah is someone I met a few days ago. He said we will not get less than 200. We are going for a bigger victory in Bengal than we had even in UP in 2017.
Well, he's a big leader, has had many successes, electoral successes. But while that is a part of the fact, the other part of the fact is in recent times, most of his proclamations with regard to the electoral victories, especially in assembly elections, have been wrong. So
you got UP wrong. Let's be honest. You were guiding Akhilesh and Rahul Gandhi, and he got that wrong, and he got that right.
No, absolutely, but you just see from 2012 onwards, I have got one wrong.
Yes.
And even there, I was not saying that I'm getting this many seats, but assume that I got it wrong. But I hope and sincerely believe that Amit Shah has changed his data and the cephalogist, because he was wrong in Delhi, he was wrong in Jharkhand, he was wrong in Bihar, he was wrong in Haryana, and he was partially wrong in Maharashtra as well. I'm talking only about elections post 2019.
So there are
have any one of you gone and asked him this? I have no problem in journalists saying that Amit Shah ji is claiming 200 seats. My only problem is when journalists are taking that as a prophetic voice rather than saying, yes, he is claiming 200, but in last 2 years, 5 other elections, he has made similar claims and BJP was nowhere close to what he claimed.
You know, it's interesting. I think there are two battles being fought. Mamta Di versus the BJP and Prashant Kishore versus Amit Shah.
No. He's too big for me to be fighting. Just because you raised the point that he is claiming 200, all I'm saying is that he has been making such claims in every election.
But you know, when we go around Bengal, there is clearly a hawa, you know, that a lot of local journalists see of the BJP. You know, a kind of undercurrent, some call it a wave. You don't see that at all. Your numbers don't.
Again.
Because you've given reasons why you believe.
I'm telling you, anyone who tells that BJP is not a political force, BJP is not a big political entity or organization, we would be fooling ourselves. They have become a very strong political force, and they don't need this. Need not be told by me. The 41% vote share they got in Lok Sabha, that tells me that they are quite formidable. Now, as a person who looks at these things or is involved in managing these things, I rather overestimate my challenger than underestimate and get into trouble towards the end. Someone mocked at me in Delhi when we were doing the election. One tall, big minister of BJP, he said, "Who is Prashant Kishore?" I said, of course he would not know who I am, but I know who he is. I know even his low-ranking party officials, because that is what I need to know. Okay. If Mr. Modi's popularity is 40%, in my estimate, I would rather say that let's assume that his popularity goes further up. If he goes to 50% or 60%, what happens? If still I am able to win or not. So, as a matter of strategy, prudence and professionalism, I would never underestimate the challenger, whoever I am facing. If you want to say that I'm underconfident or I'm hyping it up because the other person,
okay with that?
I'm absolutely okay.
Okay, so you want to keep the expectations low in a way.
It's not about keeping expectations low. It is about being aware of the strengths and the weaknesses of who you are facing.
Let's come to those strengths and weaknesses. Hindu versus Muslim, which you have admitted there is polarization.
Yes.
You have been quoted, I think, in the past of saying that Trinamool needs a majority of the minority and a minority of the majority. Whether you said that on record, I don't know, but this is often attributed to you that Prashant Kishore's strategy for Bengal is to win a majority of the minority, that's a 30% Muslim vote, and a minority of the majority, which is a 70% vote. This is a 70-30 election.
Well, I do not necessarily cut into 70-30, but anyone who is taking on BJP at the India level, since they have got 40% vote, you have to look at the 60% who is not voting for BJP and look at the components of that 60% and see where you can strike the best and the easiest. And if you go by that, the same thing would hold true in Bengal also. When I'm looking at 10 crore population here and the electorates and the various components of them, I see who I'm more likely to get and who I'm less likely to get. In democratic electoral fight like this, you are not going to get 100% vote. So of course you will target it more towards the segment where you think you are going to get more vote.
The reason I'm asking you this is there's a sense the BJP has successfully in this election positioned the Trinamool as a party which appeases Muslims, that Didi appeases Muslims, and that in a sense has strengthened or consolidated the Hindu vote, particularly among scheduled castes, scheduled tribes.
Well, you have seen this, you have covered them long enough to know they do this in every election. It's not that they are doing it
for the first time
in Bengal. So one has to, when you are trying to face BJP, you have to assume there is no point in complaining after the result that, oh, polarization ho gaya. They have used Hindu-Muslim card to win. You have to account for this, knowing that yes, they will do it, and then prepare your strategy accordingly. That's what I've been saying all along, that yes, we are aware that it is a possibility that many or a bigger chunk of the Hindu majority might vote for BJP, and we have to be prepared for that.
Now, how are you prepared? How have you tried to reposition Mamta Banerjee when she sort of speaks about her Gotra, recites the Chandipat? I know in Delhi, Arvind Kejriwal did the Hanuman Chalisa. Is there an attempt, therefore, that you are trying to say, look, you don't have a monopoly over the Hindu vote, I also am a Hindu. But does that work so late?
I'm not.
Has the BJP successfully positioned Mamta as, in a way, as they call it, Jihadi Didi?
Well, they can position. See, I think media sometimes overplays this tactical chanting of tactical moves, whether someone chants.
It's not deliberate.
It's not deliberate to the extent that it's not that you are not doing it in your private life, but sometimes when fingers are pointed at you, that you know you are not even Hindu, you cannot even, you have problem with Jai Sri Ram, you have to come in the public and say, no, it's not true. We are very comfortable chanting Hindu mantras because most of us are practicing Hindus and there is no problem in it. Let me tell you, let me put a counter to this. When BJP comes and says, when you say, are you not looking to sidetrack Muslims, what do they say? They say, no, we are all guided by Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas.
That's right.
Are you saying that they are trying to reach out to Muslims? You're not saying that.
Right. But
So when a leader who is being castigated as minority or jihadi and words which I think is completely...
No, I take where you're coming from, but you know, one of the defining sort of images of Bengal was in 2019 when Mamta stopped her vehicle because the people around her started shouting Jai Shri Ram. And the BJP saw that as a moment where they were going to position Mamta as someone who was angry because someone was shouting Jai Shri Ram. And they used it successfully there. Are you seeing the polarization having become even greater in these last 2 years?
No, see, the incident which you are quoting, it is on record that BJP has tried to use it to their advantage. So as a political opponent, what are you supposed to do? Are you not supposed to learn from that and not give such free hits to BJP one more time? And if Didi is not doing it, why we are finding fault with her? If she would have repeated the same thing, for example, then the same media would have said that, see, she has not learned her lessons. All of us will learn every day. And if I was doing something yesterday which did not work for me, there is no harm in learning from it or making the amends.
Is it more polarized though than 2019? Is 2021 the most polarized election that you have had to work with?
See, I have been asked this question, how polarized is this?
Bengal.
And everyone asks this question. Again, as a matter of principle or practice, I follow that let's take the worst. That it is as polarized as a society could get. What happens then? We have studied data for last, say, 30, 40 years, and we have seen the elections in the quote-unquote most polarizing atmosphere. We have found that close to 50 to 55% is the limit beyond which it is not possible for anyone to polarize and get vote of any community.
So
whether
any
it's majority,
community, only 50 to 55 will vote one way.
yes,
Broadly.
it's very difficult to take that consolidation anything beyond 50-55%. In rare cases, in some very localized geography, it could be even 60%. But we haven't found any hard data to suggest that elections in polarized atmosphere could mobilize a community one way in excess of 60%, and this holds true for both Hindu and Muslim.
Interesting the way you're putting it. The other point that you made,
And it is also corresponding to the BJP's vote share in Bengal. If you see, they are getting 38 to 40% vote, which is roughly translating into 50% of Hindu majority voting for them.
the other issue.
And this is exactly what I told in the clubhouse chat. That
So you're not embarrassed about
but
that
what
chat?
is
Then,
that?
you know, there's no
what
embarrassment.
what is there to be embarrassed?
The BJP trended it. The BJP
No, BJP can trend it. I'm so very happy that they're taking my clubhouse chat more seriously than their own leaders' vote. And they need my validation to realize that Mr. Modi is popular.
Well, Prashant Kishore, you're obviously someone whom the BJP takes seriously. But the other point is anti-incumbency.
Yes.
There's a sense that on the ground, 10 years in power is a long time, A. B, there are allegations, serious allegations of cut money, of syndicates, of local leaders virtually running their districts like Dadas, even during Cyclone Amphan, accusations of money being siphoned off. Has that been the biggest challenge? 10 years of anti-incumbency is tough to erase, evaporate. You've often worked with an incumbent at times. I know in some cases like Amrinder, you worked with an anti-incumbent, but broadly, is it easier to work with an incumbent government or an anti-incumbent?
See, I have said this on record. Again, this is part of, because you are raising again and again this clubhouse so-called chat and the leak. There also I said there is anti-incumbency. And I've said it on record, there is anti-incumbency. Any government that is there for 10 years is bound to have some degree of anti-incumbency. The question is not whether there is anti-incumbency or not. The real question for someone like me is how much is anti-incumbency and whether it is against the party, the local leaders or the leadership of Trinamool. In our assessment, there is localized anti-incumbency. There might be some anger as well in some pockets of Bengal against Trinamool local leadership. But by and large, Mamta Didi remains the most popular and trusted face in the voice which we have found in our assessment.
So you're trying to fight this election in all 294 constituencies in the name of Mamta. You've tried to change, I know, a lot of candidates. You've changed about 50, 55.
100.
Well, if you
82, yes.
if you include constituencies which have been
We have
switched,
not changed as a party.
you've
yes.
changed about a third of the candidates.
Almost,
right?
more than one third.
That is a recognition that there is anti-incumbency in a way, that there is anger at the local level. In one way, that is a recognition.
Yes, so, but that's not some, that I would see is being a prudent strategy, being proactive to remove people who have not lived up to the expectation of the local electorates. It's a better thing to do rather than just saying that, this is admission of anti-incumbency.
The reason I'm asking you this is because you are seen to be close to Abhishek Banerjee. Many of those who've left Trinamool are blaming Abhishek, Mamta's nephew, for their departure. They're saying Abhishek is the fountain of corruption and cut money and syndicates. Prashant Kishore is trying to, in a way, save Abhishek Banerjee, in a way.
You know personally, Didi. Do you think the kind of politician and the person she is, so long she is active and alive and active in politics, do you think there could be a possibility where someone else takes charge and she takes the back seat? Is it possible?
No, the allegation is that the party has been outsourced. The organization, the day-to-day functioning. Didi is the supreme leader, but the party has got outsourced.
Party never gets outsourced. A party as big as Trinamool never ever gets outsourced. If a party, like say, take for example, we did a campaign for YSRCP. And YSRCP, all campaign, everything what the leadership and the party was doing was directly or indirectly was advised and supported by us. Are we to say that they outsourced the party? No, it's a YSRCP party which is ruling. They have the one who have won. They are the one who are ruling Tamil Nadu. Andhra. They are not the one who, we are not, IPAC is not there or Prashant Kishore is not there in Andhra ruling it. So what is this question of outsourced? I am there just to help and aid on the topics and issues on which parties seek the assistance.
Because you came to Bengal after 2019.
Yes.
After the Lok Sabha election where the BJP got 18 seats.
Yes.
In a state where they just got a couple before, suddenly you get 18. Did you come too little too late? Because there's a sense that the 2018 Panchayat polls where 30% seats were uncontested because allegedly there was Gundarism of the Trinamool, which was the turning point. So by the time you come at 2019, you're already fighting with your back to the wall. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think 1 year and a half, I should not be, there might be some truth in that, what you're saying, but I shouldn't be using that as an excuse because 1 year and a half is very good enough time and I am very satisfied with what we have been able to do. In my opinion, we have been quite thorough and objective in our assessment and almost clinical in the execution of what we would have liked to be
what
executed.
have you done? Have you tried to reposition Didi or recast her strategy, tried to make her more accessible? I know you started this Dware Sarkar or Didi Ke Bolo, trying to get people to get in touch with Didi. Had Mamta Banerjee, who's accused of being an autocratic leader, along with being a mass leader, lost touch with the masses?
See, there is a saying we are all grown up listening to. Raja bhesh badalkar nikle, to unhe pata chala. There is a great deal of wisdom in this line. For anyone who rules, the biggest challenge is to remain connected to the correct information coming from the grassroots. No matter how smart you are, no matter how proactive you are, no matter how big is your organization, the biggest challenge for any ruler is to know what is happening on the grassroots. So to that extent, the longer you rule, bigger is the challenge and more are the chances that you might lose touch with what is happening on the ground. And that is why probably anti-incumbency sets in. That is...
that's fascinating. You're saying an incumbent cannot afford to lose touch with the people.
I'm saying...
And Mamta may have lost touch at some stage.
No, I'm not saying they cannot afford. This is the biggest challenge they have. They are bound to lose touch with grassroots, no matter how much they try.
Because...
So all leaders, they do this. They all suffer from this. And again, I re-quote what I said. राजा भेष बदलकर निकले तो उनको पता चला. इसका मतलब क्या है कि जो जितनी भी उनकी पैराफेरनेलिया बनाई हुई थी,
जी।
इसके बावजूद उनको ये पता नहीं चला कि देश में क्या हो रहा है। जब वो भेष बदल कर निकले तब पता चला कि प्रजा को क्या तकलीफ है। सो as a king or as a ruler, of course we don't talking about kings nowadays, but the democratically elected rulers, they need to keep their eyes and ears to the ground, and that is very challenging. It looks far easier for you and me than actually those who are sitting on those chairs.
The reason I'm asking you this is, again, you worked with Narendra Modi,
And
who's
he
been
will
a
also acknowledge this.
who's been a three-time chief
Yes.
minister, won 3 elections. Now you're working with someone who also wants to be a 3-time chief minister. Who's easier to work with, Mamta or Modi? And is the challenge more or less the same, to ensure that the incumbent retains his or her core vote?
The challenge, you see, working with different individuals, they have very different personalities, different time.
Who's
different,
easier?
Both are easier.
Oh, come on.
Both are easier.
You
or
are
difficult.
telling me it's easy to work with a Mamta Banerjee
Yes,
and a Narendra Modi?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, when I came here, a lot of people laughed and said, especially the BJP guys, on record, that okay, Prashant Kishore might have a great track record, but Didi doesn't listen to anyone. So, it's not going to benefit her at all. The same guys now are telling that she's listening only to me. And hence, she's going to lose. So, they can't get it right both ways. No, it's not a question of them listening to me. As I told you, my job is to listen to what people at the grassroots are telling. The single biggest and most important thing for people like us is to listen to as many voices as possible, put it in a coherent manner, and pass it on to the leadership that this is what people are expecting, this is what they are worried of, this is what they are angry, this is what they are upset, these are what their expectations
The
are.
danger is, do you end up then creating a parallel organization to the Trinamool? Because the Trinamool is an established party over the last 20 years, and that's why a number of the older leaders feel that Prashant Kishore is dictating terms to Mamta and Abhishek and running his own parallel organization. Does the organization suffer? The BJP
think-
has a stronger cadre which
And
perhaps the Trinamool
I
doesn't
tell you,
have.
we have done this successfully in different settings with different parties over now 7-8 years. It's proven that you can just come, act as a force multiplier and detach yourself without disturbing the original core.
You haven't done that. You haven't disturbed the original core of the TMC.
No, not at all. I have not done that with YSRCP. I haven't done that with Congress in Punjab. I haven't done that with Nitish Kumar.
So then why did so many people leave Mamta? Is it because of a whimsical nature that some feel that she's mercurial, that she's insecure? Do you blame her for Shuvendu and Mukul Roy leaving, or do you blame yourself?
See, without getting into individuals, there
Yes.
are 2-3 factors at play here. First and foremost, BJP, as we know, they use poaching leaders from the party which they seek to challenge. Their leaders is part of their established strategy. They do it everywhere, and for good or bad, it has worked for them in many states. Look at BJP in UP today. Bulk of the BJP in UP today is made up of leaders who have been poached or who have come from BSP and SP, Congress, God knows from all other parties. So that's one factor that has been play in West Bengal. The second thing is Trinamool, the way the party has been put together, it has been purely the sheer crazy energy of Mamta Banerjee that has brought them in the power. And since then, people from all walks, all background, they have come and they have become part of Trinamool. So there have been some inter-party contradictions that also have been at play. And 10 years after you are in government, you bound to create some people who feel that they are sidelined, they are not given as much prominence as they would have liked. So all things put together has led to some people, or I would say many people, leaving Trinamool. But the core of Trinamool is as intact as it ever was, as an organization and as a party. Out of 220 plus MLAs, say 15 of them have gone out. Many of them, now that we know for fact, have got tickets from BJP. That shows that they went because they thought that they might not get tickets here. I'm not saying for all.
Yes. What is the X factor of Bengal? Is it the Mahila voter? Mamta scores much higher among women voters than male traditionally. Almost 8-9% more. Are you relying on the woman voter, Muslim plus Mahila, as your core factor? I want to understand from you, what is the X factor of this Bengal election which gives you the confidence to say BJP will not cross 100 and I will be 190, 200?
It's multiple factors, but as a strategy, we would be looking to, yes, consolidate gains among the women, there is a clear and distinct advantage Trinamool and Didi has among the women voters. As you have said, it's very difficult to quantify and put a number, but it is definitely in higher single digit. We have also seen that BJP is, in fact, is aware of it. Look at the Prime Minister's speeches in last 3-4 times he has come. Every time he is spending bulk of his time in addressing to the women voter of Bengal. Why do you think they are doing it? Because they are also realizing they are equally resourceful to know that actually women voters are voting for Trinamool. So he is trying to reach out to the women.
That's what you're
voters.
saying. Amit Shah told me that this is all in your mind. There is no real distinction between men and women. You will see.
I wish him luck.
Once there is a wave, people vote one way.
I wish him luck. He is within his right to go with what he thinks is going to happen, and we are within our right to go with what I think is going to happen. He has his own method of assessing things. I have my own method of assessing and executing. 2nd of May will prove who has got it right.
You know, as an observer of politics, Prashant, when you see the kind of high-pitched campaign, does that trouble you? The kind of personal attacks both Didi has made on Mr. Modi makes on Didi. Was that a mistake maybe just to take on Mr. Modi in such personal terms as Didi has done from time to time and make it almost a personality clash?
See, increasingly, whether we like it or not, elections, high-pitched elections like Bengal are bound to become the fight between two personalities. Because end of the day, voter is to make a choice whether they want Didi, they want to believe and give her one more term, or they want to trust what Mr. Modi is saying, because BJP has not give any substantive narrative or face. They are all they are saying is, please vote in the name of Mr. Modi. Please vote because he is anti-Hindu. Please vote because they are Tolabaz. They have not given a single positive narrative in Bengal.
They are saying Asol Parivartan. They are
Asol Parivartan for what?
You're saying it's Modi versus Mamata.
I'm
They are
saying Asol Parivartan
for change.
Asol Parivartan for what?
For a
Asol
better
Parivartan.
Bengal.
Better.
With
Yes,
jobs,
I understand.
We will provide jobs,
But
we will provide
where
infrastructure,
is that?
We will bring center and Bengal
show
closer.
me, you have been to Bengal few days now. Show me what are the components they have outlined, what are the narratives they have shared of this as components, key components of Asol Parivartan, except that Didi ko yahan se fek do, Bhaipo ko yahan se hata do, Tolabajo ko bhaga do. You know, all
You're saying they're running a negative campaign.
Absolutely. You look at their campaign slogan. You look at their campaign slogan. What does it say?
They want to, in a way,
They are
tap into this entire mood for change that they see. They believe there was the left for 30 years, there's Didi for 10, maybe Bengal wants change.
They are within their democratic right to do that. All I'm saying is, beyond a point, such strategies are not going to work, because people would also want to know, yes, if she has not done right as per your version, what is it which you are going to do?
So you're saying this election is Modi versus Mamata.
Absolutely.
Interesting, because I want to...
It is Modi versus Mamata, it's Trinamool versus BJP, Prashant Kishore or
Versus Amit Shah.
or somebody else, does not matter.
You know, you made a statement which has stuck with me, saying that this election is critical because it will decide whether we are becoming a one-party nation. Isn't that at one level an exaggeration? You've got the southern states, the DMKs, the YSRCPs, you've got the Telangana Rashtra Samiti, other parties also there. Do you believe this election is a referendum in a way, in that sense?
No.
Of the kind of democracy we are going to become?
Yes. What I said is the psychological impact of the electoral outcome of Bengal will resonate beyond Bengal. And what I think is, if BJP were to win Bengal, we as a country would have taken a decisive step in direction of becoming one nation, one party country.
Is that
Rhetoric, you will see, mark my word, you will see, I'm sure and I wish and I know that it is not going to happen because they will lose Bengal. But if just hypothetically, because now I'm scared if
I will edit it.
Then you remove if and then say Prashant Kishore said BJP is winning Bengal.
I don't belong to the BJP IT cell,
No,
so I won't remove the word if. But go ahead.
I'm saying if BJP were to win,
Yes.
you will see the propaganda machinery coming with full force, saying now is the time we should emulate what China model is, what Singapore is, what Russia is, which is one party, one nation. We need to give BJP 20 years, 30 years. You know.
So you see this election, if the BJP wins, becoming a move towards an opposition Mukt Bharat. An important.
At least a very significant effort would be made towards that.
The reason I'm asking you this is Maharashtra is a state where there is an element of uncertainty.
And I said
Rajasthan-
this is exactly what I said in the clubhouse.
What?
That You know, I was asked this question,
Yes.
that how important, whether Bengal election is more important for opposition or for BJP. I said it is more important for opposition, and I say it on record, because BJP can afford to lose Bengal, and still they will remain the dominant political force in India, which they are. But if opposition or if TMC were to lose, then it becomes very difficult for opposition, because many states, as you rightly said, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, maybe to some extent Jharkhand, could come under pressure.
Because what I have seen in Bengal is the BJP is very organized. This again takes up from a point you made. At the grassroots also they have built, interestingly, networks in rural Bengal. You know, in other states, BJP usually moves from urban pockets to rural pockets. Here the reverse seems to be taking place. TMC is stronger in Kolkata, but as you go into the interior, the BJP has made an impact on the ground. Do you believe that is because there's a vacuum after the left sort of disintegrated?
No, this is one more point which I explained again in my chat, that why BJP seem to be doing rural Bengal, they have seem to be having better network, is because a lot of left foot soldiers have moved from being the left foot soldiers to the BJP foot soldiers. For them, taking on TMC, defeating TMC is probably the biggest priority. As the popular saying here is, "Pehle Ram, phir Bam." So this is what they say, and that is providing the steady flow of grassroots workers and foot soldiers for BJP in rural Bengal.
You're making an interesting point. You're saying Bengal, in a sense, at the grassroots has moved from Vam to Ram. Left workers
Yes.
who want to take on Mamta, defeat her, have switched to the BJP.
Yes, I can tell you with my first-hand experience over last 1.5 years, constituency after constituency, village after village, booth after booth, what we face in terms of BJP workers, we check they are all ex-left.
No, so doesn't that worry you? Because if there's an erosion in the left Congress, the so-called third front, that vote is going to go to the BJP.
So that already
so
has gone. That already has gone.
It's already gone. It's not going to
already
go
gone. But where it will go? Now they've already got 40%. Left Congress are already in low single digit.
No, you see this election as bipolar.
Absolutely.
You don't see the left Congress having any role. It's not an X factor.
But you have been traveling through Bengal. Did you see left?
In a few areas, you do still see the CPIM flags, but
Yes.
I admit that they are weaker.
And they are not the part of the chatter. They are not part. See, you can put flag, you can still organize big political meetings, but the thing is, even your supporters are not going to vote for you because they do not see you as a possible contender. And we work with the logic that voters do not want to waste their vote.
You know, the chatter, though, the BJP, the WhatsApp space, you know, elections, WhatsApp is becoming more and more important. As you yourself seen, you know, social media is a double-edged sword. But the BJP tells me that we have now WhatsApp groups at every booth level. And they send out messages day after day, very well organized.
I can tell you Trinamool's WhatsApp network or the social media army on the ground is as good as it could be for a regional party in the given scenario.
In a bigger picture, is that one of the big changes you've seen in the decade that you work with parties, that compared to say 2010, 2021, you need even a stronger social media network?
No.
That it makes a difference today to have that WhatsApp network out there.
I still think the messenger and message is far more important than the medium of delivery. Whether earlier it was a postcard, say Mahatma Gandhi would have written a letter on postcard, and now we are writing that same thing on the WhatsApp. We put too much emphasis on the medium. Important thing is messenger, the leader, whether he has the credibility, whether people want to listen to what he or she has to say, and the message, what message they are trying to deliver.
And you think Mamta is still seen as a credible leader?
Absolutely, she is the most loved, trusted and admired leader.
You don't think the cut money syndicates, these allegations have affected her image?
Not to an extent that is material.
I have to ask you this. Of all the elections that you fought, is this the toughest? I know you've been asked this before. I know once you told me Punjab taking on the Aam Aadmi Party was the toughest election.
It was.
You still maintain?
I still maintain
Punjab of 2017 was
tougher than Bengal, I tell
Bengal
you.
of
I tell you, yes.
Really?
I repeat, and I can't repeat this enough. I spoke to one of your colleagues, Rahul, and I said the same thing to him. Just because national media is more excited about Bengal, that does not necessarily make this election much more tougher. Just because Punjab is small and two regional parties were fighting, and hence you think that, oh, that election was not that easy. The problem is, it's not a problem, but this is the fact, the journalists, you come towards end of the election, and then you discover all these issues. While I appreciate what you are discovering, but please give it to us that we would also be aware of some of these, if not all.
No, I have no doubt that,
Sometime I go to bed and I think that am I the biggest fool that I am slogging 15-16 hours here for 1 year and I don't know what these people are trying to tell me?
Amit Shah is also slogging 15-16 hours
Absolutely.
a day for the last 365 days.
Absolutely.
He also knows something.
He knows much more than me. But still, it's a question. As we have seen in UP, you can be right in your assessment, but if you are not able to execute things on the ground, then you are at disadvantage. I think in Bengal, we have not only assessed things thoroughly and objectively, we have been able to execute things on the ground, and that is why I am so very confident that Trinamool is going to have a decisive victory. BJP will not cross 100, and if they do so, I have got no business to be doing what I am doing.
Which is why I want to end this by asking you.
And you must ask this to BJP leaders who are again saying the same thing that we are winning 200, 400. Amit Shah is too big a leader, so I don't want to bring him into it. But ask even the Bengal president of Trinamool, BJP, Dilip Ghosh, or ask Mr. Kailash Vijayvargiya, are they willing to say that if BJP will not win 200, they are going to resign from what they are doing? I am willing to do that. If they are not giving bluff, if they are not trying to bluff people, they should be on record and say that if BJP doesn't win 200 seats, Kailash Vijayvargiya will never be a general secretary. I am telling you, I'll never be a political aide to anyone if BJP were to cross 100.
Are you lifting your own morale and that of your party and IPAC, or are you doing this in a way to sort of spread some fear on the opposition
No,
side?
I am just stating the fact. And 4 rounds are done. I'm more confident than what I was in December as far as the outcome of these elections are
Interesting.
concerned.
You said, I have no business to be doing what I am doing. There will be those who will ask in conclusion, what is Prashant Kishore doing? Do you believe that political strategy of the kind that now you try to work out, micromanaging, you're doing it for the DMK, you've done in Tamil Nadu, and here for the TMC, does that make a difference?
No. I'm telling you.
Then why would you be
parties,
hired for so many crores of rupees?
No, but that both are not true as being portrayed, and that we'll leave it for some other time.
Okay.
What I'm trying to tell you, parties win or lose because of their own intrinsic strength, the leadership, the work they have done or they have not done. We or people like us can only help on the margin.
You can't turn around a losing fight into a winning fight,
not
is what you're saying.
Not at all. See, you can...
As happened in UP
No, it's not a question of UP. I'm saying you cannot...
the Congress, for example, which is down in the dumps.
No, I'm telling you something. You cannot make a pot without the soil. Can you make the pot without the mud? You can't. No matter how good you are as an artist, you can't make it. You need the basic ingredients. And basic ingredients are the strength of the party. The victory, if it is, or the defeat, it is going to be of Trinamool. I should take the responsibility if they lose, because I am one of the persons who are guiding, helping, advising them on how to fight the election.
Accountability is for the politician.
Accountability is for me
It's
if
not
they lose.
for the politician, because if Mamata Banerjee loses, let's say Nandigram, or loses the state, then, it's her political career at stake. You can move on to Amrinder
But
Singh
I am saying
or
I
your
will
next
not. No,
client.
but I am saying that no, not
You will
at all.
never
do it ever again.
You won't participate in any other election ever again.
Not in the form and manner in which I do.
That's interesting, because there are those who tell me that one day you may actually want to be part of elections. There is this buzz that Prashant Kishore sees opportunity in his home state of Bihar. After Nitish, who?
See,
Prashant Kishore may want to go back. You're smiling.
No,
when I
I'm not
said that.
smiling. I'm telling you the fact, because you're not revealing a secret. I was part of that. I joined politics and I failed.
You may go back.
No, yes, and I can go back, and I would go back. There's no two way about it.
You will?
Yeah, I will go back.
Your ambition is to be Chief Minister
It's
of
not.
Bihar?
No. That's not my ambition. But my ambition is to go back to the politics, and I will go back to the politics. It's no longer a secret. I was there in politics.
Tell me, and this is as a political observer, you're much more the insider. In this decade that you observe politics, has it become more difficult to actually have a level playing field in elections in this country?
Yes.
This worries me as an observer. The amount of money being spent, the amount of hype, media, is that something that worries you
Yes.
also?
Whether it worries me or not, but yes, it definitely is the fact. Whatever seat, for example, BJP gets in Bengal, a significant proportion of that could be attributed to the significant advantage they have because of their support from the system, the extraordinary resource they have at their disposal, they can mobilize and deploy, and the overall echo chamber they have created using media, social media and everything. They have a distinct advantage. It is that much more difficult for regional parties or those who are in opposition to challenge an incumbent because resources are increasingly becoming infinite for the incumbents.
Is that the reason why the BJP is so difficult to take on? Or is it because it's become an election machine? Or is it, as you started off by saying, that Narendra Modi is incredibly popular?
It's combination of all three or many more things.
What is that popularity since you worked with him? What is it that Mr. Modi doesn't get stuck in this anti-incumbency?
He does. If you look at hard data, actually anti-incumbency has started to impact him. If you give me 2 minutes, I will explain. If you see the elections that has happened since 2014, BJP has underperformed their own performance in the Lok Sabha. So all the elections that has happened post 2014, BJP has underperformed. That underperform, if you plot on the graph, is only getting bigger and bigger. Since 2019, in all Vidhan Sabha elections, BJP's underperformance is now averaging 12 percentage point. What does it tell us? That Mr. Modi's ability to fetch vote for himself when he is the contender, while it remains intact, at least till 2019 it was intact, his ability to transfer vote when he himself is not the contender is going down by the day. And this is not my assessment. Please ask your data guys
No,
to
I know,
plot
12%.
this. 12 percentage point.
12% is the BJP's decline. I know in state elections,
but I'm saying compare this to the decline between 2014 and 2019. It was single digit. So that means more and more people are less willing to take his word and vote for people who he endorses, but are not necessarily, but he's not necessarily asking vote for himself.
So let me end with an intriguing question. If, as you say, Didi wins Bengal, will 2024 be Mamta versus Modi?
I have no idea.
Since you believe Indian elections are presidential, will we see Didi versus Modi
No,
not just in Bengal, but across India?
But I'm also a strong believer that those who make this kind of extrapolation, that Nitish Bihar jeet gaye, so now he is the contender, Chandrababu Naidu jeet jayenge, so he will be contender. It's one thing to win a state, and it's completely different ball game to go on and emerge at an India level and challenge an incumbent. So let's not make it as simplistic as many of the observers make.
I have finished my orange juice.
And my coffee has become
your
cold.
coffee
So
has become cold. So we are coming to the end of this. So I just want to ask you, in case you don't win Bengal, what will you do?
I don't need to be doing. I was doing something before I started doing this. So I was not
Come on,
unemployed.
Prashant.
I was not unemployed before this, and I'm now 45. People do retire at 45. Many people retire at 45. I can retire at 45.
I can see you doing, I can't see you not doing anything. So I'm sure you'll come back in some avatar or not. And of course, if Didi wins, then who knows what role you'll play in the future. But either way, this has been fascinating. And I promise you that unlike your clubhouse chat, we're not editing this at the moment.
Yeah,
We may edit it for future editions, but we will make sure that we will keep the sense of what
I
you said.
loved how much importance BJP is giving to my clubhouse chat. That shows how rattled they are with a person who is not part of the TMC, who is not part of the government. Why are you so rattled with what I'm saying in clubhouse?
I'll tell you why. Because you were so close to Mr. Modi, they feel you betrayed them.
Oh, they feel that they betrayed. I betrayed them.
Yes, that you were once so close to Mr. Modi, now you've gone to the other side.
No.
That's why they're getting back at you.
No. They keep telling you on record and off the record also that we don't need him. Okay. They don't need me. They have many better people.
Well,
people
this
than
election will settle a lot of things, including the ability of Prashant Kishore to influence an Indian election. I appreciate your joining us and taking the time off. The coffee's got cold. I hope you've enjoyed this warm conversation.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Bye for now.